Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is one that has been a few weeks in the works because I've had some issues with this. We're mainly getting to shoot this thing unsuppressed and having it run right, but we'll talk about that once we get into the range report a little bit more. And I'll even have a supplemental video about that. But today we're going to be taking a look at another fine product from Q. This is the Sugar Weasel. Yeah, it's an entry-level version of Q's product line when it comes to their pistols and rifles. And this one is actually in a configuration some of you may have never seen before because you can't buy it in this configuration. It is in 5.56. Normally the Sugar Weasel is in 300 blackout. However, they do offer it as an SBR in 5.56, but this is not an SBR, it is a pistol. And the only way that you can get the gun like this is to buy the Sugar Weasel in 300 blackout and then individually buy the 5.56 upper, which from my understanding is only offered at a few distributors. So that is exactly what this firearm is. So it's a little bit different, but it's made of all Q parts. So before I get into the things that I like and don't like and tell you guys about my experiences with this firearm, I always want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this amazing firearm. He's a local subscriber and huge fan of the channel. His name is D. D, thank you again for lending such an awesome gun for me to review. I want to thank my Patreons as always, because through their monthly donation and support, they help keep the lights on around here. You guys know I'm a YouTube bad boy. Not everything I make is monetizable, or YouTube even permits me to publish. So my Patreons go a long way in helping me produce this content. And if you would like to see all of these videos early, you can join my Patreon for just $1 a month. And as always, I want to thank the person that provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, thus making them financially feasible, my good friend and primary sponsor, Mark from Brownworks. And yes, once again, it is that time to thank Brownworks, the best grip company there is, who supports the Texas Gun Vault. Brownworks is a custom grip company producing a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. You guys hear me sing their praises in every single range report. I know if you like high-end guns like the Q Sugar Weasel, you have high-end guns yourself, and many of those accept wood panel grips. And you're probably thinking to yourself, man, wouldn't it be awesome to have a set of personalized, high quality wood grips for my fine firearm? Well, I'm going to ask you, if you are in that situation, to go over and check out Brownworks. I'm going to put a link in the description below as well as a pinned comment. Mark is an artist. He's a craftsman. He can make so many different types of grips, putting on custom logos, engravings, finishing them in a number of different colors and textures. Anything that you can imagine, Mark can make. And even if there is something that you're looking for that you don't see on his website, please make sure to contact Mark. I promise that he will go out of his way with his amazing customer service to try to hook you up with the exact set of grips that you need and want. So once again, I'm going to put a link in the description below as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. Please go over there, check out his website, thank him for supporting channels like mine, and when you do, tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so once again we're talking about the Q Sugar Weasel. Yeah, it's a pistol, well currently a pistol because it does have the stabilizing brace, and yes, I know, as I am currently filming this video in December of 2022, the ATF is currently thinking about reclassifying these. So if you are watching this in the future, before you type frantically in the comments telling me, that's not a pistol, it's an SBR, make sure you look at the date that I published this. I know that you want to show off how smart you are, but make sure that you know that this video might not be future-proof before you make a fool of yourself. But as I mentioned, right now, as I'm holding it, it is legally a pistol, and this particular firearm is chambered in 5.56. And as I mentioned in the opening, this is not a configuration you can actually buy at the gun store. The Sugar Weasel typically comes in 300 blackout. The only way that you can get a 5.56 complete firearm is as an SBR. But the owner of this bought the Sugar Weasel in 300 and then later bought the 5.56 upper separately, and that's how we we get the gun as it sits today. So that's what we're reviewing. So let's talk about the things that I like and don't like. And I always want to start with the positive first. And the first thing I want to say that I really like about Q is Q's philosophy as a company. Q was started by a man named Kevin Brittingham, and maybe you've heard of him. He actually started Advanced Armament Corporation, or AAC, and he became famous for building top-notch suppressors. He really has a mind for that kind of stuff. He later sold that business and then went to work for SIG, and he helped them launch their silencer line, and then later went into business for himself again with Q. It is my understanding that Kevin is not a guy that works well with others. He's one of those independent thinking, entrepreneurial minded people that just likes to be his own boss. And so when he started Q, he's like, I'm gonna be the honey badger. I'm going to do things differently and do things my way. And I have a lot of respect for that. A man who is making his own way in the world. And I think this comes from all the names of his products. They're all funny. You have things like the Thunder Chicken, the Full Nelson, the Half Nelson, the Honey Badger, and the Sugar Weasel. So his marketing strategy is definitely a little bit different. And you guys know the joke about the Honey Badger. The Honey Badger don't give an, I can't say the word right now because I try to keep all my stuff G-rated, but you know where I'm going with that. I love that philosophy when it comes to a company. You don't have to like the products or even like the man, but you gotta respect that type of philosophy that goes into a company that is making their own way in the world and pretty much putting up a middle finger to the ATF and to other businesses saying, we're gonna do this our own way. And yeah, I absolutely love that, and I applaud them tremendously for that type of philosophy. And also something I noticed as a small touch when I borrowed this from D is that I did need to get the owner's manual and some little parts to take off this handguard, which once again I mentioned I will discuss a little bit later, but something I found in the owner's manual, or with the owner's manual, is a little card that says, "You are welcome from Q." And guess what is on the back? It says, "Congrats, KB," for Kevin Brittingham. And he actually signed this. And I looked at it really close, and that's really his handwriting. And the way that you know it's not printed is because you can tell that when people autograph or write things, as they write, especially in cursive, you'll have overlapping lines and you can see the density of the ink. So that is not printed, that is actually his writing. So that's kind of cute and neat that he puts a little card with every gun that comes out of the factory, and he says congrats to you and signs it. That's just a little nice touch. Now, let's talk about some other things I really like. Now, when it comes to the Q product line, you'll notice that their stuff is finished differently than everybody else. I mean, take a look at the color of this AR. The handguards are kind of silverish. The lower and the upper is kind of a yellow gold, I guess you would say. You don't see that color anywhere else. And at first I thought they were anodized this color, but then I discovered it's actually clear anodization. You can anodize aluminum any color you want, but they anodize this clear, and it gives it that really unique color that is like nothing else on the market. I really think that kind of makes their products stand out, and you always know a QAR when you see it just from that color. Now, as I mentioned, this also has a mil-spec upper and lower receiver, so we don't get the telescoping stock or the telescoping brace. But one thing they try to do to make this a little bit more compact is the Lock Tactical folding brace. Yeah, so you have this little piece right here. I know this is really popular right now. You push a little button right here and the whole brace or the stock will fold. The only downside to this is that you can't fire the gun or safely fire the gun with it like this because the buffer tube assembly needs to be part of the operation. But for storage, that is awesome. It makes it a much smaller and more compact package. So I do like that addition since you can't get the telescoping stock on the Sugar Weasel. A couple other really nice touches that Q puts in is they have other companies make some parts for them, like Radian when it comes to the charging handle, but also they get Magpul to make them a special custom grip. I don't think you can buy that grip anywhere else. Not only is it a special color that matches that color of the anodization I talked about earlier, it's also in a unique shape and size. And this is a little bit shorter. In fact, for me, I love this size because it's perfect for PDW style guns. I don't like it when those AR grips are too long. And this just fits my hand really nice. Another nice touch that they have is the shape of the trigger. You guys know in many of my range reports, I talk about how I don't like flat face triggers. However, I think they have come up with a unique compromise. As you can see, we do have a flat face here, but the bottom is curved just a little bit. So you get both a curved trigger and a flat face trigger at the same time. And I actually find this to be very comfortable. And so while it still might not be my favorite, this is definitely something I can learn to live with. I think it looks a little bit better and it feels a lot better when I dry fire it. So I really think they went above and beyond and tried to customize this gun and give you something that is special and very different than what other companies are currently offering. So now let's talk about a couple of things that I don't like. Well, first off, we're going to talk about the length of pull. I've already mentioned this is legally a pistol, and what some people don't understand is that the ATF has all these changing regulations all the time on what constitutes an AR pistol, and something that they talked about a few years ago in an opinion letter was the length of pull. They're saying you can't have a brace and have it be too far away from the trigger because it makes it easier to shoulder. So they put some type of arbitrary length on it. And when it comes to that, you can't let this brace come out too far. So they put a stop on it. And believe it or not, that is fully extended right there. And that is all the way in. So you get two adjustments. That is it. I mean, it only adds about a ½ an inch to that length of pull. And I find that if you are going to shoulder this, it is just too short. Well, someone like myself, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but man, do I have to crunch over to shoot this thing. It's not very comfortable. That length of pull is terrible, but that's not necessarily Q's fault. I'm going to blame the ATF on this one. Now, I do know that a lot of people don't even know about that rule, and you can take that off, but it would make this gun illegal. You can take that little stop off, but I know that when people build AR pistols at home, they don't think about that. But I don't think anyone's really at the range with a measuring tape going, how long is it from the back of your brace to the front of your trigger? As I said, I've never seen that happen. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not an attorney. Don't take anything I say as legal advice. But that is something about this gun that I don't like, but I don't know what they can really do. Adding this law tactical folder to it actually gives you a little bit longer length of pull. I do like that, but that's about as far as they can go and still have it legally be a pistol. And now let's talk about the big thing that I don't like, and that is going to be the adjustable gas block. So let me tell you a little story. The reason this took so long to film and actually get to you today is I got this a few weeks ago, and I went to the range, and I tried to shoot it unsuppressed, and it wouldn't cycle. I was very upset about that because I really wanted to shoot this gun. But I'm like, okay, it has an adjustable gas block. I'll just adjust it. However, there's one problem. It is behind the rail. Yeah, there's the adjustable gas block right there. You can kind of see where that adjustment nut is. But if you go in straight with an Allen wrench, it is obstructed by the rail. So some of you guys are telling me when I made a video on the Texas Gun Vault 2 about it, well, just go in there at an angle. Well, you don't want to do that because you don't want to damage the handguard, especially because this is not my gun. I might be able to make it work, but if I don't, I'm going to damage the gun. But Q actually thinks about this because when it comes to their 300 blackout, they actually milled in a little divot in their handguard for where the gas block would be on a 300 blackout. So I think if they're going to make a 5.56 upper, they need to do exactly the same thing up here. To me, this is a little bit on the lazy side. If they can do it here, they can do it here as well. And the reason that I think this is important is even though Q says this is supposed to be a set and forget about it system, you just tune it once, you get it where you want it, and then shoot it and forget about it. And I'm fine with that. However, when it comes to your initial tuning, you gotta be able to get to it. So the only way to get to it is to take off the handguard. And the handguard comes off with a little nut right here. And guess what? That is an odd size for a wrench. It turns out it's 1/4. It's really small, and not a lot of people have a wrench for that. But don't worry, Q offers a proprietary tool. Yes, I made a video about proprietary tools recently and how much I don't like them. So they make a proprietary tool for the honey badger and the sugar weasel, which is going to give you the ability to work on these guns. And this thing isn't cheap. I think it's about 50 bucks for this little piece of metal. So they get you for the gun, and then they're like, hey, you need that proprietary tool. Oh, 50 more dollars. So not a big fan of that. I said in my proprietary tools video that I think you should be able to use standard tools. It shouldn't be that complicated. So that's something that I don't like. So before I go on, I want to show you the troubles I was having with this gun being way undergassed at the range. So let me show you the footage of the first time I tried to shoot this. So the gun was way undergassed. Often it wouldn't even pick up the next round out of the magazine because it wouldn't cycle that bolt far enough back. And then you're like, well, okay, let me adjust it. Well, by the time you shoot it enough to adjust it, the gun is already getting really hot. And then you gotta take off the handguard every single time. It's not terrible to do, it's just time consuming. They need to cut out a divot on the 5.56 handguard for this adjustable gas block. That's just the way that it needs to be, and I would expect that from Q. After all, you're paying a lot of money for this. I know that seems like it's a small gripe, but I really feel like if you're gonna have an adjustable gas block, you gotta make it where the end user can adjust the gas block easily. You shouldn't have to take the gun apart. After all, most people that are going to buy a gun like this might not be a gun geek like myself or you are, that has all the tools and likes to work on guns. They want a system that is just plug and play. And they're not going to know anything about a proprietary tool or an adjustable gas block. They just got a lot of money and someone said, hey, Q is some of the best stuff you can buy. And they go out and buy it and they shoot it and it doesn't work. So it needs to be more accessible than the way it is. And I think this is a huge problem with this particular gun. So once I got the proprietary tool, I did adjust it. And because it's so much of a hassle to take this thing apart, and once the gun gets hot, you don't really want to be taking it apart anyway, I might have opened up the gas block just a little bit too much. So it really does need to be finely tuned. After getting it back from the range, I did close it up a little bit, but the adjustments are so small. So one of the complaints I'm going to have in this range report is the gun is overgassed. But once again, that's not necessarily Q's fault. They didn't design it that way. It's just that in order to adjust this, it's so much work, so much time, and you got to wait for the gun to cool. It's not practical in a review like this. So we're gonna shoot this thing the entire time a little bit overgassed. You're gonna see a lot of flame come out of here and the recoil is gonna be a little bit too much. And one thing you can't tell on the video is I'm getting a lot of gas back in the face through the gas port. So that's just what I'm going to have to put up with. I'm not necessarily going to blame Q for it because I said you can adjust it, you can make it work. It just takes a long time to get it dialed in the way that you want. So that is a big, big problem with this. So that's the things that I don't like. Now, once again, I know I've talked a whole bunch here, so let's get this thing to the range. As always, I'm going to set the target at about 10 yards for an AR pistol. We're just going to make sure this thing functions after I adjusted the gas block. I want to make sure this thing is accurate and that we're going to be able to continue with the range report unlike the first time I got it to the range. So let's do that now. Let's see how it performs and if the gas block's going to work this time. And finally, after a few weeks, I'm able to shoot this thing. And yeah, you can tell it is overgassed. We got that big old fireball from the front, and the recoil impulse definitely looks like it's a little bit heavier than a standard AR-15. Now, as I mentioned, you'd really have to dial in this gas block. Now, me personally, I would want it to run reliably, both suppressed and unsuppressed, so I would have to take some time. I believe D just runs this suppressed, so he might want to close off that gas block just a little bit more, but really it depends on your application. Now, I know a lot of people, when I review these products, go, that's designed to be run suppressed. I get it. That's what Q makes these guns for. But you got to think about those people that live behind enemy lines. There's a few states here in the United States that you can own this gun, but you can't own a suppressor. So we got to accommodate those gun owners. So yeah, it needs to run unsuppressed. That's just what I think about it. But overall, the gun ran great. I had no other problems with it. So now I'm going to double the distance of this target. I'm going to go for the head, see if this group opens up any. I really don't expect it to, because this gun is outfitted with this awesome Night Force scope. Now, I know this is not a scope review, but let me tell you, I have really fallen in love with these Night Force scopes that D puts on all of his guns. They are awesome. But anyway, here is another 20 rounds at 20 yards. Let's see how I do. And once again, we have some great accuracy and the gun is running just fine. But now I'm starting to notice the length of pull a little bit more. So I really have to get my face close to this scope for it to work, because this is as far as I can pull out this brace. This is not the most comfortable gun to shoot because of that. I gotta have a longer length of pull. So living in a state where I could SBR this, that is definitely the way that I would go. For me, this is way too short. It is not enjoyable, and I would not want to spend the money on it if I couldn't shoot it comfortably. But that's my main issue. But otherwise, as I said, I'm having no problems whatsoever. All right, the next test I'm going to do is go out as far as I can at this indoor range, which is 25 yards. And I know a lot of people say you got to shoot at a further distance. I was going to do that on this range trip. However, we recently had a winter storm here in Frisco and the pipes burst at the gun range. So they had to close off the 100-yard rifle range temporarily while they get things fixed. So 25 yards is all that I can do today. But I am going to bench rest this, and I'm hoping with this awesome Night Force scope, we're going to get a really small group. So let's do that, and then I'm going to give my friend a chance to take this thing for a spin. And as I think everybody expects, Q is going to be a very accurate weapons platform, and that it is. Now, if you are going to buy a Sugar Weasel, or Honey Badger for that matter, and want to bench rest it, I definitely think you got to go with one of the longer options, especially this one in 5.56. I know that they like to make them more like PDWs with really short barrels, but if you're going to bench rest it, you're going to have that longer barrel and this longer handguard. It just allows you to use a bench rest a little bit more comfortably. And bench resting with that shorter length of pull is just not that much fun, but the accuracy is definitely there. All right, so now I want to give my friend Brandon a chance to shoot this. He came along on this range trip, and it's always great to have different people shoot these guns when I'm reviewing them, because sometimes they give me a much different perspective or think about something that I don't always think about. I know these range reports kind of become a little formulaic, and it's great to have other people's perspective. So I'm going to put this in the hands of my friend and see what he thinks. And from his perspective as well, he says the length of pull is just too short. And he said there's this intangible aspect of this gun that's just not fun to shoot. So maybe because it's overgassed, maybe because it has way too much muzzle flash, maybe because the length of pull is just so short, it's just not fun. You have to work at it. You know, it really says a lot when a gun feels like an extension of your body. And my friend Brandon said, no, this gun is definitely high quality. You can make it do what you want it to do. It's just not natural. That was a very interesting insight. And when he said it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I don't like about it. It doesn't feel like an extension of my body. And once again, I'm 100% sure it's that length of pull and the fact that you gotta spend so much time trying to dial in this gas block depending on how you want to run it. It's just not as natural as you would want it. It's an intangible thing. And of course, we're all different. This might be set up perfectly for you. You might have the exact same gun and you're typing right now going, you're an idiot. It's the best gun that's ever been made. And if that is the case for you, that is awesome and outstanding. I'm very happy. I am not saying that it's not a great gun. I'm just saying that for me, it's just not a natural extension of my body, and therefore it kind of takes me out of the experience. I have to work too hard to shoot it and shoot it well. So I'm really glad that my friend Brandon gave me that insight. All right, so before I give you guys my final thoughts on this extremely long video, I always want to give you guys a little bit of gun porn. So I'm just gonna do a rapid mag dump on this thing. I want to see how fast I can shoot it with this flat trigger. It seems to be pretty good, has a nice take up, almost no reset, it's very short. I really like how they have it set up. So let's just see how fast I can shoot this thing, even though it's kind of overgassed. Now, I don't know what you guys really saw there on that footage because the camera doesn't always catch it, but I could barely see the target behind all that flash. Yeah, it's just too much. This gas block has to be adjusted, and I hate the fact I can't do it at the range and do it easily. So what are my final thoughts when it comes to the Sugar Weasel by Q? Well, I think I've covered everything I wanted to say here. This gun has a lot of good points to it and a few bad points. I know some of you guys are going to absolutely love this gun because it is a product from Q, and you guys are Q fanboys. There's absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I'm a fanboy of certain companies myself. But I have to say, in general, I'm a little bit disappointed with it. But I can tell you what would make this gun probably a 5 out of 5 star review. I would want a rifle version of this. I know they like making short-barreled AR platform guns. But man, if you made a 5.56 version of the Sugar Weasel with a stock, with a 16-inch barrel, and you give us a handguard where you can adjust that gas block, this thing would be pretty badass. I would love it. It would probably be a 4.5 star or 5 star review. However, as it sits, it's just too much work, I think, for the average gun person to really tune it to where it wants to run right for them. I also don't like the fact you can't buy it in this configuration. You gotta buy it in 300 Blackout. Now, I love 300 Blackout. However, it's a more expensive round to buy. It's harder to find in some places, and I think a 5.56 variant is honestly just the better option. And of course, give me that full-length stock with that better length of pull, it'd be pretty awesome. But as it sits, not really that big of a fan of it. But the quality is there. So please don't think that a lower star rating means the gun isn't accurate, it's not reliable, it's not well built. It is a great gun. It just has to be tweaked for me personally. So I give you guys my biases, what I'm looking for and what I enjoy. But my star rating is based off of what I like. But I tell you what my criteria is. So on my star system, I would only give this 3.5 stars out of 5. That is it. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. I would honestly not buy this gun, but if it was offered in a rifle configuration in 5.56, I definitely would. But as it sits, it's not really a gun that interests me. It's too hard to shoot. The length of pull makes it too uncomfortable to shoot. And I want to be able to adjust that gas block a little bit more easily. That's my main complaints. But everything else, it's awesome. It's accurate. The trigger is fantastic. It's a beautiful gun. I love the way it looks. I love the philosophy behind Q and all the little touches that they put on it. And I even like the card from Kevin. That's a nice touch. It really, really is. It shows that they care about their product. But only 3.5 stars out of 5 for the Q Sugar Weasel with a 5.56 upper and in the pistol configuration. So I know some people are going to disagree, but if you've ever shot this gun in this configuration, I would love to know if your experiences mirror mine in the comments section below. But I'm so glad that I got to shoot this. So thank you, Dee, for giving me this opportunity. And I hope that somebody else out there found this entertaining and educational and helps them in their purchasing choices, especially when it comes to Q products. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Did I get this review completely wrong? I'm sure there's some that think that I did. So, as always, thanks for watching. And so if I own this, I would want to want it.